Florida state is attempting to make child rape punishable by death. Do you think child rape warrants a death penalty? Why or why not? A lawyer once told me if rape and murder both have the death penalty, then rapists will be more likely to kill the victim to try and hide their tracks, since the punishment is the same. Edit Y is my most upvoted comment about rape. I don't trust the government enough to give them the ability to kill citizens. I don't believe in the death penalty. Innocent people are convicted often. The goal of this law is to get the Supreme Court to allow the death penalty for more crimes that aren't homicides. How far down the criminal severity ladder are we comfortable going with the death penalty? No, the death penalty has been proven to be more expensive than life imprisonment and also does nothing to deter crime. In addition, this puts the child in an awful situation where they know if they come forward, that person, who could very well be a family member, will be killed. The guilt of that may make it less likely that children come forward. No, it's never a good idea to give the government permission to kill its citizens. I do not believe in the death penalty for anyone. I also wouldn't be particularly upset if a child rapist died. Most importantly, in today's world, I do not trust the politicians of Florida to accurately determine who is and isn't a child rapist. The problem with the death penalty isn't what crime is or isn't deserving of it, it's that you can get the wrong people. The government having this unilateral control to execute people is not good. This is a bad and loaded question. Supporting the death penalty requires me to believe the justice system doesn't prosecute innocent people. That's, of course, not the case, so I cannot support the death penalty. G for victims, because anyone who has been a victim knows that perpetrators use our fears to keep us under control. Imagine how much farther they'll push our fears now that their lives are in danger. Speaking as a survivor of child sexual abuse, revenge isn't justice. People are really showing their bloodlust in this thread. A person deriving satisfaction from the torture and killing of other people seems to me to be a predatory behavior on par with any other lust for violence. I don't believe in the death penalty, but if I did, I can think of no better candidate. That's not what they're doing. In front of children, the exact same as rape with regards of punishment, which just so happens to be getting changed to a death penalty charge, which will also not require an unanimous decision anymore. Essen and I are doing this to punish other people, not to save the kids, and not to punish child rapists. No, it would be bad public policy because it would mean more dead victims. If the crime is death, either way some will kill their victims so they can't testify. For 100 clear-cut cases of child rape, sure, throw him to the fucking wolves. Given the direction Florida is going, how long before it becomes a broader child abusers get the death penalty? Then it becomes anyone who talks to a child about anything trans is a child abuser. This new law is a broadly acceptable first step in a larger and far darker quest. Trying to redefine gender-affirming care as some increasingly hysterical form of harm against children, and while Florida is trying to remove the requirement of a unanimous vote for the death penalty. I'ma say no, not necessarily because I do or don't, but because I do not trust the people driving that ship one whit. They're going to pass that shit, and in due time the next person who hands a kid a breast binder will be headed to the gallows. No, it incentivizes killing the child. No, most victims don't come forward, and if the crime was punishable by death, even fewer would. What would this mean? A 18-year-old raping a 17-year-old would be sentenced to death, but she would be forced to have the baby, because if she would abort, it's murder. Am I getting it right? No, Florida made sexual crimes against minors punishable by death, and recently made wearing drag in public a sexual crime against minors. They want to kill trans people just for existing and are trying to make it look otherwise. Should child rapists be hit with the harshest penalties possible? Yes, death penalty. Debate to be had there. However, given how Florida seems to be continuously expanding the definition of things like child rape and grooming, absolutely not. Because it won't be used against actual Floridian child rapists like Matt Gaetz, it'll be used against the LGBTQ and parents of trans kids. The law is worded in a way so that they can give the death penalty to doctors who provide gender-affirming care and parents who provide gender-affirming care. That's the point of the bill, to further an agenda of genocide against the transsexual community. There shouldn't be a death penalty at all. We already execute murderers. Now, they want to execute rapists. Tomorrow, they'll want to execute abusers, then thieves, knows. They're passing a law in Florida to allow for the death penalty if 12 jurors agree. That's insane. If you're going to sentence someone to death, everyone better be 100% about it. Why is FL so bloodthirsty? Just wait until Florida redefines rape to include a trans person being in the proximity of a child. I'm against the death penalty in all cases. INALTI's only real function is to reaffirm the state's monopoly on violence and satisfy the sadism in the hearts of too many Americans whose conception of justice amounts to bad people should be hurt. Sorry, that was a long sentence. I don't agree with capital punishment. How can we take a judicial system seriously when it tells us that it's wrong to kill, then utilizes murder as a punishment? Besides, death is easy. Living the rest of your life in prison is hard. That isn't what the law is. The law is to make any Shrek's offense against a child punishable by the death penalty, as well as reduce the votes needed for the death penalty to be used. This is not fucking good when the majority of the state's legislature has repeatedly indicated they believe the public existence of queer people is an offense against children. No, the state should not have the ability to kill its citizens. I think the Innocence Project has demonstrated that the death penalty is just horrifically bad idea. I don't believe in the death penalty, period, so no. They want to give the death penalty to anyone LGBT as they intend to equate that with child rape. Because they sure as fuck aren't going to off all those priests, ministers, and pastors that rape kids. Fuck DeSantis. I thought the consensus here was pro-execution. Well, it's refreshing to see reasonable takes. I hate the death penalty. I was always taught to be the bigger man and take the high road. State-sanctioned killing is not that, and I think it contributes to a culture of violence. Government-sanctioned murder is still murder. Prisons exist to protect the public from dangerous individuals. Maybe look at sentencing those who hurt children more realistically. The reality is that we don't incarcerate child abusers for long enough. It's the US. Just gotta wait until they're 12 so you can marry them. This is astroturfing. They are positioning to make transgenderism punishable by death. If the wording of the law were child rape, you bet your ass it's a good move, but that isn't the wording of the law. The law LEGO links with a series of other laws they have aimed at transgenderism. Not pedophilia. If they aimed their laws at pedophilia, most of their sitting reps and senators would be subject to the death penalty, while transgender peoples wouldn't be in the conversation.